The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. After he had fed the people, Jesus made the disciples get into a boat and precede him to the other side, while he dismissed the crowds. After doing so, he went up on the mountain by himself to pray. When it was evening, when he was there alone, meanwhile the boat, already a few miles offshore, was being tossed about by the waves, for the wind was against it. During the fourth watch of the night, he came toward them walking on the sea. When the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were terrified. "It is a ghost," they said, and they cried out in fear. At once Jesus spoke to them. "Take courage, it is I. Do not be afraid." Peter said to him in reply, "Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water." He said, "Come." Peter got out of the boat and began to walk on the water toward Jesus. But when he saw how strong the wind was, he became frightened. And beginning to sink, he cried out, "Lord, save me." Immediately, Jesus stretched out his hand and caught Peter and said to him, "O you of little faith, why did you doubt?" After they got into the boat, the wind died down. Those who were in the boat did him homage, saying, "Truly, you are the Son of God." The Gospel of the Lord.
I'm not much of a doctor. In fact, I have no training in medicine or anything like that. But I do know that when you're sick, you need to take the right medicine. I don't believe that you can take Dramamine to cure a flu. Maybe there's a nurse in the audience that would correct me on that, and maybe it does help. I don't know. But I don't think that Dramamine is what you use to help yourself when you have the flu. Likewise, this one's a little more obvious. When you have a broken leg, the remedy is not going to be to go out and run, right? You have to rest and things like that. So you have to take the right medicine for the right illness. And those things are good, right? Dramamine is good for motion sickness. Running is good for just your general health. But in those particular circumstances, to fix those particular illnesses, they're not helpful. So you have to do the right thing instead. When we think about the readings today, it might invite us to ask the question, do we take the right medicine for our spiritual illnesses? And I'm not talking about physical illnesses, right? For our physical illnesses, we go to the physical solutions. God can work miracles, of course, but most of the time he works through the ordinary means of medicine and things like that. So when you do have the broken leg, you go to the doctor, get the cast, and take the time to rest to heal the broken leg. But what about our spiritual illnesses? The things that you could say cause us to have a storm within ourselves, like the storm that the apostles saw as they crossed the sea. What's the right medicine for that? Well, of course we know what the right medicine is, and Peter shows it to us as well. That as he walks on this sea that's so tumultuous, when he looks at Jesus, when he goes to Jesus, then his fear is taken away, his spiritual ill, his fear. He's given courage, he's given faith. But isn't it true that we often go to other things to try to cure our spiritual illnesses? maybe when we are anxious, or maybe when we're stressed out, or when we're angry, or things like that, we often turn to the wrong medicine. Maybe we turn to entertainment and just kind of let those things try to drown them out of our minds and our thoughts. Or we do other sorts of things, but we're taking the wrong medicine if that's what we're doing. We need to turn to Jesus in those moments. To heal the spiritual illness, we go to him because he's the right medicine for that illness. Right, when we see in the first reading, the prophet Elijah, the context of this reading you don't get from just the passage that's selected for tonight. He was running away from the king who was ready to kill him for being a prophet of God. Right in the middle of this reading even, the verse that was omitted, verse 10, says, God calls out to Elijah and says, "Why are you here?" And Elijah says, "Well, I've been most zealous for the Lord, and now they're seeking my life." And we see Elijah is fearful of these people that are there and ready to kill him for being a prophet of the Lord. And what does he do? He waits for the right moment to hear what the right medicine is. It wasn't the strong and heavy wind. It wasn't that God was going to blow away his enemies or something like that, or the earthquake was going to swallow them up, or the fire was going to take them away. But it was in the tiny whispering voice of God that he found his confidence. And then we see that he goes on to continue to proclaim and prophesy. He chooses Elisha as his successor, just following this passage. And he finds the medicine for his illness, his lack of peace, in the Lord's tiny whispering voice. Going back to Peter, we might notice one thing too, that there's a couple different things going on, right? There's the physical thing that's happening of the storm itself, and his fear, which is the spiritual part of it. Now, when Jesus encounters Peter, when Peter calls out to him and says, "Save me, Lord," Jesus reaches out immediately to him, and his fear is taken away. But it's worth us noting, too, that it's not until after they get back into the boat that the wind dies down, that the physical thing is cured, right? So maybe sometimes in our spiritual illnesses, when we turn to the Lord, he'll take away our own fear and give us peace in its place. But he might walk with us through difficult times, through difficult circumstances and other things which are outside of the realm of what's spiritual. That can happen sometimes. He doesn't necessarily take away the physical problem right there. But he will attend to us in our spiritual difficulty, in our spiritual illness. He is the right medicine. So let's keep our eyes on him, like Peter kept his eyes on him. And when you have difficult moments too, come up to the church, spend some time and pray in front of the Blessed Sacrament. It's a great remedy for all of our spiritual ills. The Eucharist that we receive at this Mass, let him come and tend to your spiritual illnesses, because he is the right medicine. Just as a sort of word of closing here too, I just want to end with one of my favorite quotes from Saint Jean Jugan, who says this: "Go and find him, Jesus, when your patience and strength run out and you feel alone and helpless. Jesus is waiting for you in the chapel. Say to him, 'Jesus, you know exactly what is going on. You are all I have and you know all things. Come to my help.' And then go, and don't worry about how you are going to manage. That you have told God about it is enough. He has a good memory."